we build up here. I'm very uncomfortable so far hearing our current board members' complacency of the crime, the analogy that we check the vendor's license, then how come we don't check the resident's driver license? How about you guys? You don't have a valid driver license. What type of mentality is this? I mean, there's no respect to you, my neighbors. Anybody can afford to buy here at Sienna. I mean, you got to be of certain stature. I mean, you can't be illegal alien living in this community.
The next, Jay.
I think the rule is you can only serve 3 terms, so there are term limits. Am I correct about that? Yeah, I think so. So you're limited that way. Would I serve only 1 term? That would be by inclination. However, I would allow myself to be subjected to the draft by my neighbors.
I'm sorry, Lexinger.
Well, I have a hard time answering that because I'm looking for a second term. I can't tell you if I get through this second term, my wife will kill me if I run again.
I ditto what Mike Singer said.
Well, I want the honor and the privilege to be on the board. That's why I felt for a long time people asked me to consider running. And because I think I have good talent and leadership skills and I want to see more transparency on the board, and I desire greater participation from the residency. I believe that I would run again, honestly, because I think I can do a good job for this community. I have new ideas, I have enthusiasm to show you, and if I can do that and do that well, then you'll re-elect me, and you will have the honor to either elect me again or throw me out.
Thank you. Next question?
I'd like to know for each of you if you're satisfied with the quality and the cost of the services provided by CCMC, and if not, what would you do about it?
I'm glad you asked that question. I have probably been the severest critic of CCMC since I've gotten on the Finance Committee. They are, if I got on the board and I could convince several other members to join with me, I would tell CCMC, you've got your 90 days notice. Now, that is, and you're gone. Now let us negotiate a contract we can live with. First of all, it says in the current contract, if we give them notice that they take all their employees, about 29 of them, and leave with them, and none of them can stay here and continue working for us. This amounts to blackmail. This is the kind of thing which the board should not tolerate for a second. And it got in the contract really sneaky. Mort Leibowitz, I don't know if Mort's here. He was president of the board and left about 5-6 years ago. This was not in the contract. They snuck it in right after Mort left. A guy named, who followed it? Joe McGinnis, very nice man. He was very ill. And he signed the contract that had what's called a non-compete clause, meaning their employees can't work for us for at least a year after they leave. That's intolerable. We must stop that. It's not as if there aren't dozens of other management companies we could find, or we could manage the place ourselves. Lots of communities do it. We use a management company because it's convenient to do so. And the real question is, how do they compare to what else is available? We've only had them as the management company since the beginning. We've had several security companies. We've had several landscaping companies. There's nothing unusual about reconsidering the management company, especially when you consider how they've been taking us for a ride with financial matters. Let me tell you something you don't know. When you close on a house here, you pay what's known as a capital contribution of $1,100, 5 months rent, 5 months assessments. Well, they charge $180 or $200 to the homeowner in order to take that money and turn it over to us. This costs them practically nothing to do, and there are a variety of other fees they do as well. We had an analysis done by one of our accountants on the finance committee that estimated they get about $70,000 a year acting as our agent and return none of that money to us. That's intolerable. And there are many other things that will make you just as angry if I had the time to go into it. My time is up. So thank you for asking the question.
Well, I'm on the board, and I can tell you that I'm not totally happy with CCMC. There are a lot of things that they have done well, but there's a lot of things that they are lacking in. I can tell you that this board has been working on this situation. In fact, we have a meeting with DJ Cole tomorrow to discuss some of their shortcomings and what are they going to do about it and how are we going to change the situation. We hope to report to you later in the month on how this meeting came out.
Mike Cutler?
How many months did it take us to decide between pickleball and tennis? Months. So I'm not ready to stand here or sit here tonight and say, yeah, let's kick them out. I'm ready to do that. It took months to come to no decision about pickleball. What I want to say is that the board has ploddingly, at best, been working on reviewing the management contract that we have now so that we can pick out the best parts of it and take out the parts that do not work in our favor or not in our best interest. That process continues with the new board, with the idea that we'll come up with a framework of a contract that we can then go to CCMC, our management contract, and say, this is the kind of contract we want. Are you willing to abide by that? At the same time, we can use that framework to go out and explore or contact other management companies to see if they would abide by such restrictions as we would want to put on them. But I've not talked to another management company. I have no idea what their charges are or what their fees are. So I can't sit here and say, kick the bums out. There may be a dozen more bums running management communities, other communities in Las Vegas. So I'm not ready to say we got the worst company. I'm not ready to say we have the best company. But we need to do our homework and make sure we've made the right choice. I forgot my last point. I'll leave it at that.
Sue?
Well, CCMC has been with us for a long time. I believe Sun Colony started with CCMC. They have been in business for over 14 years, and they not only manage Sienna, they manage Red Rock and the new Mountain Edge community to the north. They provide us with a lot of different services, from lifestyle to financial services. I personally think the board needs to make more clear and concise policy so that the general manager can be given clear and concise information on how to work with the community and the committees for the betterment of Sienna. I also believe that renewing their contract, look at me again, I have no privilege to what's in that contract, so I cannot speak before you intelligently because I don't know, and neither do you. Doesn't that kind of bother you?
Yes.
It bothers me because I think our board needs more transparency with the information that they share. You know, I think that's a challenge to them. I want to get our residents more involved in participating. We should know what's in that contract. Why don't we? And I have no problem looking elsewhere. But I agree with Mike if you throw the baby out with the bathwater, you don't know what you're gonna get. I think in the meantime, we need to do our homework. We need to remove the emotion that's attached with CCMC, with hard feelings in the past, and we need to break it down and prioritize. What are our wants? What are we receiving? What's the cost? What are we getting? Is it fair and reasonable? We need to do our research again. What's available in Las Vegas? What's available in the four-state area? What's available nationwide? What's out there? Who's doing what and who's happy with whom? And furthermore, I think when you negotiate a contract, you have to put your best foot forward, and you negotiate in good faith. And when you have an attitude that it's my way or the highway, or an unpleasant personality style, you're not going to get very far. So right now, I hope that we can work together for the good with CCMNC, and I think that we need to continue to do our homework to see what's out there that's good business policy.
Sam?
I have to say this, that I'm very, very disappointed at what the board is handling this contract issue. I don't know what the current board has been doing in the past year or 2 years. How come there's no bid sending out? And then, we need to solicit bids from local company. By the way, I happen to know one, but I'm not speaking on them. If we do have a bid sending out, I will recuse myself in the process. But I'm just saying that I just happen to know they are qualified companies in this city, locally based. And as far as whether I'm happy with the service provided by the security team. I can say this, I really don't have too much a high opinion concerning them based on my own experience, and then the experience, the ordeal suffered by Beth and many others that I haven't even talked to yet. I think they got their priority all screwed up. Instead of chasing the tailgaters, giving them tickets, they give them courtesy notice. Please, come back again. But rather, they gave the ladies in this community a citation for $50. And then the tailgater didn't get the ticket. The residents that may be threatened or harmed by those tailgaters got the ticket. This is how screwed up they are. But are they good people? I have to say that. I met with Brandon. He's a well-trained law enforcement officer type of a guy. I think he knows what is right and what is wrong. Except he didn't get a correct, straightforward, clear, concise direction from our board. Our board doesn't care, $5,000 set, no big deal. But how about that $5,000 set turn into serious crimes? Is there any way to stop those tailgaters? Yes, seems like nobody knows about it. How about the big sign at the gate saying, no trespassing, or trespassing will be prosecuted. And every time when they came in, issue them a citation. They won't pay for it, but be it. At least they know we are tough. They know they are not well.
Time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Okay, I would like to look more toward the future.
Closer.
Okay?
You should know,
Yeah, next week, not the future.
I need to raise it up. I would like to look for the future. We have 5 candidates here. We're looking at 3 of you becoming new board members. So looking to the future, what is your vision for this community for next year? And what changes would you make that would maintain or enhance the community.
We'll start with Mike Singer.
Arlen, I'll answer you. First, as you know from several of our meetings, my goal over the next 5 years is making sure that this landscape in this community is first class. We started this year on the south side, and I think we have really improved the look of that side. Everybody doesn't agree with that, but that's okay. There is so much to be done. The rosemary, the baccharis, an awful lot of the plants have reached the end of their life cycle. The rosemary is nothing but wood. There has a lot of, I think we have a lot to do over the next 2, 3, 4 years. I think in the next year, 2 years, we have to look further at the CCMC contract. I truly believe something has to be done. Either they perform or we get somebody new that will perform. But those are my 2 main goals over the next couple of years.
Mike Cutler.
I don't have much to add to that. I also think we're on the right track with our landscaping and the 5-year plan that began this year. And I think that will enhance the community dramatically. The management company is one that we're working on now, and that's, by that I mean reviewing the management contract and making sure we have a good framework for one moving forward. And I think that's probably within the next year or 2 when we'll have to make a serious decision as to whether we have the right management company in place for us now. I think we need to work on a community disaster plan that has been brought up by the safety committee about if there's a disaster, an earthquake, or whatever, and it happens to this community and you lose all your electricity, you lose all your water, whatever, what next? Should the community have a plan for you to go to the community center for a safe haven or whatever? I think those kind of things need some serious discussion as we move forward, and I think that's about it.
Sue?
I believe that this community deserves nothing less than a highly effective governing board, which accepts accountability for the community's performance. The board acts in creating the future and effectively addressing those challenges, which is vital to attaining the future. My vision is to create more synergy between the board and the residency. As I've said several times tonight, I want to see more transparency in our board. I was really taken back with the budget and the Federal Reserve Fund. In 2014, it went from 75% to 2015 to 98%. That meant that we're very top heavy. I just believe that we need to have more action by our board to create a community as a whole, that we can work together for the common good. We've seen issues in the Rotunda area, we've seen issues between pickleball and tennis, and I think we can do better than that. I think we need to find common ground in every area within the community and foster that common ground. And I think that begins with the board. The board is a team. They need to act as a team. And I'm a team player, and I'll be more than willing to work hard and really try to bring this community back to the way it once was, with a good attitude and a good set of friendships within.
Thank you, Sam.
My goal for this community, or for my job, if I'm elected, is to raise the property values. I think we need to create a big, happy family atmosphere, and then we can attract outside buyers coming to this community, and then raise our property value. I understand some of you may not care, as long as I live here comfortably, I'll leave the issue of property value to my heirs or to the estate. But I think if the property value does go up, you'll feel good too. When you feel good, your health will be improved as well. So as far as the board of directors, I have some drastic ideas. I think, somehow the board of directors become the governors, become the rulers. I mean, we're sitting here on an elevated podium. We're higher than you are. We should be on the same ground floor. I mean, we should answer your question face to face. I mean, you should be sitting down and ask us questions. And, we're not going to hide between layers in the layers of infrastructure, like a subcommittee. So the board can push the responsibility to the committee, but the committee is not held accountable. So that's why so many waste or quote-unquote mistake happen. That's why it costs us so much money, like in monthly assessment, $20, $22, but our property value is still so low, lagging behind other communities. I mean, the board is too complacency with what's going on here. We need to research, we need to review, we need to study. But I would go to the issue and take care of it. We'll get it done. If I don't get things done, vote him out. Vote me out, recall me after 6 months. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Jay?
Siena is a fun place to live. Lots of interesting things going on here. First obligation of the board, in addition to the obvious things of financial stability, etc., is to maintain the lifestyle that we have here. We generally like it very much. And that means the board making the kind of decisions or investments and activities that people like. Or simply making decisions about doing things that cost practically nothing, like showing old movies. Now, another thing we can do to enhance the lifestyle is to have more volunteers, doing different kinds of things than volunteers are currently doing. This place couldn't run very well at all if we didn't have volunteers. But why don't we have volunteers running the coffee service? Why don't we have volunteers at the desk of the fitness center? Why don't we have volunteers at the front desk of the social center, for a few hours a week? That would relieve the professional employees so that they can be more effective and we need fewer of them. Getting back to physical plant. You're absolutely right, Mike, about the plants and new designs that are going on. But our most important consideration in all this planting must be water. Our water bill may very well double in the next 10 years, or even sooner than that. We've got to create the kind of plant environment that is incredibly water-friendly and have as few plants as possible that do the job and learn to love rocks. Rocks you don't have to water. And what about cactus? They seem to be ignored around here. Well, enough of that. Getting back to disaster plans. I believe in disaster plans. I go even further than that. I believe in disaster preparedness. It might make a lot of sense if every spare place in this building was full of emergency supplies, the kind of stuff that you used to have in bomb shelters. Because we may one day, not with a bomb, but be in the kind of situation where we may be somewhat on our own for a significant period of time. Finally, the contract. People are talking about getting the contract with CCMC, over a couple of months, over the next couple of years. No, we can do that over the next couple of weeks. It's a disgrace what we've been putting up with, and we shouldn't tolerate it any more than necessary. I want to keep our current employees. Generally, they're an extremely good bunch. We've grown very fond of them. But the current contract says if they go, the employees go. That's got to stop immediately. and then we'll negotiate and see if we can work out a deal with CCMC. If not, we work out a deal with someone else. Or, temporarily, we do the job ourselves. We're talking about 2 dozen
Time is up,
employees.
Jay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like we have one more
Good evening. First, Jay, is the first time I ever heard Zeno's paradox with the grasshopper used outside of a math classroom. So, thank you. My question is this. I'm living here 2 years now. My wife and I are here 2 years now. We enjoy it. We enjoy living here. But there's so much going on in terms of management. So my question is in 2 parts that are related. Number one, are there any committees that you see a need for that we don't have in order to maintain a good flow of management and preemptive discussion about issues and not wait to be reactive but proactive? And secondly, are there any existing committees whose scope may be too large to be efficient, that could be divided into other smaller committees, and that'll promote more community involvement because we need people to be involved in those committees?
Thank you. We'll start with Mike Cutler.
You have to? I'm trying to think of an answer. Are there other committees needed? You know, I honestly haven't looked at other communities who have committees and maybe they have set them up differently or they have different functions or whatnot, but I'll be honest, I just hadn't given it any thought. So I'm not very well prepared for that. Our existing committees, we did break down the properties committee so that there's a separate landscape committee, and I think that was an excellent decision. I think we're okay, but honestly, I just hadn't given it any thought. Sorry.
Sue?
Well, if I'm correct, I believe it's the board that makes the concise directions for the general manager, and that he needs to have good information given to him to go out and work with the subcommittees and his staff. When we're not clear or concise in that, it's a reflection on the board. And that's why I believe that, you know, the committees we have are excellent. I thought the board creating the landscape committee was a good idea. We've got people that we pull within the community to work on an issue that they hold dear to their heart, and their credentials are good, and they're doing a good job. I think it's also, though, however, that, you know, here's another area that we probably should have got a lot of other committees working together with them, such as the finance committee. You know, it seemed like, you know, they were given a job to do, and they went out and did it, and now we're kind of in a situation with financing with that. We need a long-range goal with that, and I think everybody is realizing that because of the water issue, like Jay said. What was the question with the existing committees? I think are doing a good job. I offered tonight to have a golf course committee made, and I think that's a good idea. If we could have more volunteer involvement, I think that's an excellent idea, and I think that starts with the board encouraging that and promoting that through education and becoming, what is it that you do on the board? What is it that is available out there? How can I serve? What can I do? And when you connect with your community and your residents through your board, that's a good thing. They gain confidence, they gain trust in your ability to govern.
Sam?
If I heard the question correctly, it was how does Sienna community compare with other communities? Community. Okay. Well, concerning communities, what I would propose is to create a public relations committee. We're going to have volunteers escort outside buyers when they come to this community looking for property to buy. I heard from some real estate professional that Sienna only allow 2 hours of open house on Sunday afternoon, something like that. I don't know exactly, but I can tell you this. The other day, my neighbor, Tom, he wanted to put up his house for sale, and he put a sign, say open house, right in front of his house. He got a corner lot. And then nobody showed up. Why nobody showed up? I mean, you have an open house, nobody showed up. How can you sell your house? I mean, the only way is to cut your price. And he's ready to lower his price. And lower than what I just mentioned earlier, Sunset Answer. But if we have a more open or access for outside realtors to bring their customers, we have volunteers to go with them to, all these open houses. I don't think it's a security or safety issue. So I would definitely, that's my first priority, to set up this public relations committee. They also need to look into ways to get a hookup with the online real estate site. If you go to Las Vegas real estate or Las Vegas active adult communities, I don't think Sienna pops up as one of your choices. I mean, had I been looking for houses in Vegas from St. Louis or Kansas City, I wouldn't know Sienna. So I call some of the realtors, and then they will bring people buyer to Sienna. So I think the way to offset that, to challenge that issue, is to set up a public relations committee. Thank you.
Sienna's got a pretty good selection of committees. I can't think of another new committee we might create except perhaps for an emergency preparedness committee that would advise the board on the kinds of things we might do in preparation for an earthquake or other national disaster or a terror attack or something like that. How many of you realize that within the last week there was a 4.3 Richter scale earthquake about 30 miles from here? 3.6, I think. So it's a real possibility. And I think we have some earthquake insurance, Sienna does, but it's just minimal. And most of us as homeowners have no earthquake insurance. So that might be something to consider. In terms of how the committees are used, I can't speak for the other committees, but I can say that it's been an absolute shame how the board has treated the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee has some very fine people on it. A couple CPAs, a lawyer, a couple of people that are actually really smart too. I mean, they could provide a lot of insight to the board if they bothered to take them seriously, instead of using them as a rubber stamp for things that they've already decided.